When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See detail.
This episode is brought to you by Honda. When you test drive the all-new Prologue EV, there's a lot that can impress you about it. There's the class-leading passenger space, the clean, thoughtful design, and the intuitive technology. But out of everything, what you'll really love most is that it's a Honda. Visit honda.com/EV to see offers.
Hi everyone, it's Kavitha Davidson, and welcome to another episode of Sportly, our weekly podcast that dives into sports history and highlights iconic events, remarkable athletes, and the impactful moments both on and off the field. So last week we kicked off part one of a two-part series on the behemoth that is the NFL and its rise into the business giant that it is today. With teams valued in the billions, we wanted to uncover just how we got here. The NFL is the most valuable sports league in the country, but if you go back 100 years, you might be shocked at just how humble the league's beginnings were. If you haven't already, please go back and listen to part one, because today we're going to pick up where we left off and dive into the second half of the NFL's story. So we'll explore how the league found its footing, attracted more fans, and has raked in more money year after year, eventually becoming this powerhouse. Let's get started. Part one last week left off with Red Grange, college football star and new Bears recruit, whose phenomenal play on the field helps to bring legitimacy and a fan following to the newly formed NFL.
Football history on rain-soaked Franklin Field, Philadelphia. Red Grange defeats Pennsylvania. The ball carrier in these rare scenes is the galloping...
Riding this publicity wave, the NFL wants to further broaden its reach, so the league decides to cut a lot of their smaller town teams. Big cities like Philadelphia, Chicago, and Baltimore are far more profitable markets. There are more fans, bigger stadiums, and higher ticket sales. But as we enter the 1950s, a new revenue stream emerges: television.
Throws it, boots it, it's up in the air, it's heading towards the goalpost, and it is good! And the Browns lead.
The NFL first tries broadcasting games in the late 1940s, but it's just not profitable. TV revenues are small, and some teams see a drop in stadium ticket sales. Fans prefer watching from home rather than paying for live games. Rings familiar if you know about how the NFL is viewed today. In 1949, all but one NFL team drops TV broadcasting. But home television sets sweep the nation in the early 1950s, rising from a few 100,000 to 15.2 million TV sets in households by 1952. By 1960, 90% of American households own a TV. For many, TV marks the beginning of the NFL's dominance over baseball. Football, with its high-impact tackles and fast-paced action, is perfect for the visual medium of television. Networks like NBC and CBS see the potential in broadcasting NFL games, and they secure rights that benefits fans, networks, and individual teams. This is when the NFL introduces blackout rules. These rules prevent games from being shown within a certain distance of another team's home game. So teams no longer fear losing ticket sales or competing for viewership. Now, the NFL recognizes that while teams compete on the field, they have to cooperate off the field when it comes to TV. In 1958, 40 million viewers tune in to the NFL championship game between the Colts and the Giants.
The 1958 World Championship of Professional Football, featuring the New York Giants and the Baltimore Colts, with Chris Schenkel, the New York Giants.
In 1961, Congress passes the Sports Broadcasting Act. This is a landmark piece of legislation that allows leagues to negotiate television contracts in national packages, a significant antitrust exemption that the NFL takes full advantage of. Instead of each team claiming individual media profits, TV revenue is shared equally among all teams. Now, this decision isn't just about boosting profits, it was also a strategy to crush the new competitor, the American Football League, or the AFL.
In 1960, the American Football League was born, founded by a group of men who believed their enterprise could succeed against the older, more established NFL.
While the NFL has had a few competing leagues spring up over the past few years, anyone remember the USFL? None has changed the course of history quite like the AFL. In the late 1950s, Texas businessman Lamar Hunt, fueled by his family's oil wealth, tries to bring an NFL team back to Texas. Despite his enthusiasm and resources, the NFL isn't looking to expand beyond its 12 teams and rejects his expansion plans. When Hunt attempts to purchase and relocate an existing team, the league turns him down again. So in 1959, Hunt joins 7 other businessmen who also failed to secure NFL franchises. Together, they found the American Football League, 8 teams spread across cities like LA, Denver, Boston, New York, and Dallas.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
It's been a 3-year wait, but the Olympics are back, and the CBS Sports Podcast Network has you covered with everything happening in Paris. It's a new era for the U.S. women's national team, and Attacking Third will tackle all the women's soccer action. First Cut will keep close tabs on golf, while Beyond the Arc will follow the U.S. men's basketball team on a quest for another gold. And We Need to Talk Now will provide comprehensive coverage of women's athletes at the Olympic Games. Follow and listen to all CBS Sports podcasts for free on the Odyssey app and wherever you get your podcasts.
Despite securing a TV deal with ABC, the AFL faces financial struggles. The first season sees losses exceeding $700,000. That's around $7.5 million today. And the second season brings even more financial strain, with another $500,000 in losses. Every league meeting feels like the last, as team after team threatens to fold. It's a tough pill to swallow, then, when the NFL decides to start a team in Texas, the Dallas Cowboys.
From a dream to reality in just 1 year, the Dallas Texans of the American Football League.
It's the NFL's attempt to crush the AFL, their burgeoning competitor, before they get the chance to stabilize. Most fans and commentators alike feel that NFL teams are a sure bet. It all feels so hopeless that Wayne Valley, the owner of the AFL's Oakland Raiders, proclaims one day, "How can anybody be proud to have lost $1 million? I propose that we rename this league the Foolish Club, because that's what we are." In response, the room shakes with laughter. His comment is obviously a joke for the most part, but it does reveal the doubt in the back of everyone's mind. Can they turn this league into something worthwhile, or are they just being foolish? Fools they may seem, The league pushes onward through the 1960s. They introduce newer ways to play the game that remain to this day, focusing on the passing game, a much flashier style of play that is just made for TV. The AFL has also had its own notable football stars, and as we learned with Red Grange's success in Part 1, it's the star players who have largely catapulted pro football's popularity. The NFL and AFL engage in a tense bidding war for college players in the mid-1960s. Holding separate drafts, they throw money at these phenomenal players. So when Alabama quarterback Joe Namath chooses the AFL's New York Jets over the NFL's St. Louis Cardinals, it's a huge statement and a large step forward for the AFL. But in the end, these bidding wars proved to be a financial tanker for both leagues. In June of 1966, the leagues give in to each other, and the NFL announces its plan to merge with the AFL in the next few years. And yet, government concerns that the NFL is a monopoly in the making are not quite in the rearview mirror yet. Once again, on the grounds of antitrust, the league has to get congressional approval before moving forward. There are a number of agreements that come out of the plan to merge, including the creation of a league versus league championship game. This is where we get what will later be known as the Super Bowl. The first Super Bowl takes place in 1967, and alongside the incredible turnout and millions of viewers nationwide, the league profits off of Super Bowl ad placements. Super Bowl commercial slots quickly become coveted ad space, and by the end of the 1960s, a 30-second Super Bowl ad costs $55,000. This is really the beginning of what we see in the commercialization of pro football.
Lots of credit cards are good in your hometown. The American Express card is good worldwide.
At this setting, I'll give you the closest shave you've ever had in your life. Remember my name, the new adjustable Gillette Techmatic Razor.
The Goodyear Custom White Tread Polyglass Tire.
Laramie, you've got a lot of driving ahead of you, mister.
When the leagues officially merge in 1970, it's a great success, with the addition of teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and the New England Patriots. Now, in 1970, the NFL is an unchallenged, unified powerhouse of a league. The AFL-NFL merger brings us back to a state of financial stability and security in pro football that carries through the 70s and 80s. The NFL has already proven itself very savvy in the way of TV contracts and will only continue to push the boundaries of sports broadcasting with the creation of Monday Night Football in 1970. This weekly broadcast on ABC during primetime TV was more than just about the game. It was football's talk show. It was an event in itself. It had a lively set of commentators, legendary figures like Howard Cosell and Frank Gifford, and quite a few celebrities like John Lennon and Ronald Reagan. And because it was on prime time, it's really hard to overstate the cultural significance that Monday Night Football broadcasts had on the American populace. Often, major news would break during football broadcasts, and you would have sports commentators trying to announce to the world that John Lennon was just shot, for example.
An unspeakable tragedy confirmed to us by ABC News in New York City. John Lennon, outside of his apartment building on the west side of New York City, the most famous perhaps of all of the Beatles, shot twice in the back, rushed to Roosevelt Hospital, dead on arrival.
So Monday Night Football is popular and fun and becomes an American staple. With TV comes greater passion for the sport among fans. NFL franchises have really passionate fan bases now, and that draws value to a team. A lot of teams rise up as forces to be reckoned with 3 teams in particular during this period, the Steelers, the Cowboys, and the Dolphins, dominating the Super Bowl. That success alone helps drive the value of these teams and the NFL at large. The rise of the Dallas Cowboys in particular as the NFL's biggest moneymaker begins at the end of the 1970s, when they're coined America's team in their 1978 highlight reel.
That their faces are as familiar to the public as presidents and movie stars. They are the Dallas Cowboys, America's team.
For over a decade now, the NFL has been producing these season highlight reels as big promotional summaries of their teams and the league, NFL films as we know them today. It's yet another way of using TV for the NFL's profit. But after the 1978 season, the producers over at NFL Films struggle to encapsulate the season for the Cowboys after a recent loss. In January, they suffered an incredibly disappointing loss in the Super Bowl against the Steelers. And this is a team that, in this decade alone, has won more games during the regular season than any other team and 2 championships. So now, how can the highlight film bolster the team's stardom in the shadow of a loss? After a few ideas that just don't seem to stick, the editor-in-chief at NFL Films realizes something. Win or lose, the Dallas Cowboys are incredibly popular. Everyone knows about them, fans are not. And as for the fans themselves, they're super passionate, and there are a ton of them at every game. They wave jerseys and flags across the stadium. And with that, America's team is born. This popularity helps the Cowboys secure brands like Pepsi and Nike for sponsorship deals in their stadiums in the decades to come. And as a Giants fan, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, they're the most valuable team and they haven't won a Super Bowl in almost 30 years. Having such a popular team that can sell out these stadiums and reach millions with advertising and their brand is obviously a huge boost for the NFL's publicity and value. And everybody wants a cut of the pie. So it's around this time that the players start demanding higher cuts of the sport that they've devoted their whole bodies to. From 1970 to 1987, players go on strike 4 times, and an 8-week strike in 1982 shortens the season to only 9 games. With time, salaries rise as players get more say in their contracts, and obviously labor issues exist to this day. And yet, no one is making quite as much money as the team owners are. Since the founding of the NFL, a small handful of teams remain family-owned, but a lot of principal owners throughout the years have sold their teams for profit or to get rid of what was, at the time, a hole in their pockets. And a lot of times, this ends up being for the best, as we see with the Dallas Cowboys. Now remember, they're currently the most valuable team in all of North American sports. They're worth about $10 billion, while the second most valuable NFL team, the LA Rams, are only about $3 billion behind. Many credit their skyrocketing value to their owner, Jerry Jones, who bought the Cowboys in the 1980s and just ran with it. He's got an eye for business, marketing, TV contracts, labor exploitation, we'll have to throw that in there, and he has transformed the Cowboys and the NFL. It's made him a lot of money in the process. Safe to say that an NFL investment will continue to be incredibly valuable as the years go on.
ABC Thursdays.
Welcome back.
Grey's Anatomy is all new.
Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant?
The drama going down.
Bungee jumping from the bridge, his cord snapped. We need all hands on deck.
Is unbelievable.
You think you're God's gift to this hospital? You're just another doctor. My relationship with Catherine is complicated. I'm gonna sue you.
Your lawyers know where to find me.
You're unbelievable.
Grey's Anatomy. All new Thursdays, 10/9 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Feel your max with Brooks Running and the all-new Ghost Max 2. They're the shoes you deserve, designed to streamline your stride and help protect your body. Treat yourself to feel-good landings on an ultra-high stack of super comfy nitrogen-infused cushion that takes the edge off every step, every day. The Brooks Ghost Max 2. You know, technically, they're a form of self-care. Brooks, let's run there. Head to brooksrunning.com to learn more.
So with this in mind, we should examine the economic impact of the NFL now that it's become such a profitable entity. So let's start by returning to an issue that we talked about earlier, antitrust laws. With the ever-growing value of the NFL, a lot of people still criticize the many unchecked lanes of revenue the league has. More specifically, they criticize the role the government has played in supporting this multi-billion-dollar industry. Congress's antitrust exemptions in the 1960s have had many decades worth of impact, especially when it comes to TV. Exemption from antitrust laws for broadcasting have made the NFL one of the most popular TV programs in the past few decades. And year over year, the most watched programs on TV are usually NFL games. You don't even have to like football to tune into the Super Bowl halftime show. Almost half of America does so. Ever since the NFL headlined Michael Jackson in 1993, halftime performances have been redefined as something that football fans and non-fans alike look forward to every year. You know, there are roundups of the Super Bowl commercials. You don't have to actually watch the game to know what went on in the Super Bowl. It's yet another way that the NFL has tapped into new possibilities. And I don't know a lot of other things that have as broad appeal. Most recently, an 11-year deal with various TV networks like ESPN, NBC, and Fox generates over $10 billion a year for the league. Maybe antitrust laws once helped keep the league afloat and were necessary, but now, as a writer for The Atlantic put it, those same laws are effectively, quote, a license for NFL owners to print money. Yet another way in which the government has supported the league is through government-subsidized stadiums, which we've seen popping up like crazy over the past few decades. From 1995 to 2002, 14 new stadiums were built across the nation, on average 2 a year. Now, why did this spike happen? A lot of this can actually be attributed to new teams staking their territory or veteran teams relocating to other cities. The threat of relocation has often convinced cities and municipalities to throw subsidized bonds and taxpayer money at NFL teams to convince them to stay. Teams may relocate if they feel there's more profit and popularity elsewhere. At least they threaten to do so. So to flatter a team potentially coming to the area, cities sometimes offer to build a nice new stadium on taxpayer funds. Or the cities that already house those teams throw money to refurbish or build new stadiums when they already have one. How do they fund these multi-billion-dollar facilities? Often it comes in the form of local tax hikes, so the taxpayers are actually on the hook for this, or bond abatements, land grants that the government gives to teams in the form of tax-exempt loans or things like that, so that they can fund the building of their stadiums largely at public cost. And when it comes to taxpayer dollars, these opinions can get controversial. Publicly funded stadiums are definitely no different. Not everyone is thrilled at the idea of paying extra cash for a giant stadium that an already multi-billion-dollar entity wants to build. So you may be wondering, why does a city government want to construct new and expensive stadiums? Simply, there are two sides that we consider here: the culture and the economy. There is a lot of cultural capital in having a team and having a stadium. Cities show a lot of pride for their local teams, but economically, cities hope that a stadium can be a good long-term investment. They claim that stadiums create jobs. We don't always see that bear out, and the jobs that are created often tend to be temporary and seasonal. It just doesn't work out the way that we're promised. The benefits really don't outweigh the costs of the stadiums themselves. And it begs the question, if team owners are as wealthy as they are, why can't they just cover the cost of their stadiums? Why should the general public foot the bill? Now, aside from stadium subsidies and exemptions for new facilities, the NFL, until about 10 years ago, also benefited from a peculiar part of our tax code. Up until 2015, the NFL League Office was actually categorized as a 501c6 nonprofit entity. The idea that the NFL is a nonprofit is obviously ridiculous, but that means that it was categorized as a business league, which does exist for other corporate entities. I bring that up just to say that the NFL is a business like all others, and we should be treating it as such, and maybe we should reevaluate the way that not just the NFL, but other corporations are treated under the federal tax code. The NFL gave up its tax-exempt status in 2015. I will reiterate that the teams themselves were considered for-profit entities, so they were paying taxes. But when the NFL gave up its nonprofit status in 2015, it also gave up the requirement to disclose executive pay. So we don't know how much Commissioner Roger Goodell actually makes a year, but the last reported number, the last time they were required to report that, was over $40 million. So at the very least, I think all of these conversations remind us that the NFL is obviously no longer struggling. They are a thriving financial behemoth, and maybe we should reevaluate the way that they're treated. It's really impressive to see how far the NFL has come from this struggling homegrown entity that was barely making any profits to where it is now. It was a risky investment, and now you would be lucky to be able to get a piece of an NFL team. And the cultural capital is real. It's born from a love of the sport and this hold that football has on the American populace. But maybe we should be looking more closely at an organization that has bypassed competitors, certain laws, antitrust, and definitely taxes to become this billion-dollar giant that it is today. It really just isn't about the sports anymore. Sports in general are about money, influence, politics, and obviously entertainment. If we return to the recent push toward private equity ownership that we mentioned in part 1, it really shows that there's no financial ceiling on the NFL. And no one is saying that we can't enjoy football. Football's a great sport. But it is worth looking at the other side of things and what it means for this sport and for this singular entity to have this level of both economic and cultural power. Thanks so much for listening to Sportly. Sportly is an Immigrantly media production. This episode was produced by Sadia Khan and Shay Yu. This episode was written by Michaela Struther, Shay Yu, and me, Kavitha Davidson. Our sound designer and editor is Paroma Chakravarti. Our theme music was created by Simon Hutchinson. Other music by Epidemic Sound. Tune back in next week and every week for more Sportly.